Thank you very much. My name's Trevor and I'm an addict.
Hi, Trevor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much, Paul. That was fantastic. Yeah, I've got to follow that. Don't ask me, I'm going to do it, but I will attempt. Anyone in here who knows me, right, and I know there's a couple of people here who've heard me share before. Sorry, Catherine. But I always start off, unlike Paula, right? I knew I had some time to plan and write things down, and I knew I was doing a share. I knew I was doing a share at the convention, and then I probably forgot it. Just didn't think about it anymore. And I always start off my shares by saying that I don't know what I'm going to share about. And when I sit down on this chair, what I like to do is, as the readings are going around, at some point I'll close my eyes and I'll just try to connect to my higher power. And I'll ask my higher power, can he just shift the ego out of the way? Can he slot in? I call my higher power God. Right, Paul, I don't apologize for that. I was brought up a Catholic as well. I understand. Yeah, I don't apologize for calling my higher power God and whatever, but I ask God to slip in, shift the ego out of the way, because what my ego wants to do, what this head wants to do, I want to make you laugh. I want to make you cry. I want to take you on this journey. I want to tell you the most horrible, disgusting story and shock you and blah, blah, blah. But really what the core of me really wants to do is carry a message, because that's what helped me. All the shocking stories and everything else, really, it's interesting, yeah, to a point. But when someone's carrying that core message, I feel it. And the one thing I know about us, and I will say this, one thing I know about us, we know when we're bullshitting. If I sat up here and started bullshitting you guys, you'd all feel it, and the room would start emptying quicker than, just people just start drifting out, and so I don't want to do that. I just want to carry a message of recovery, and hopefully I will. I'm also a sweater. I'll say this as well. I say that a lot. So when I get nervous, I sweat. So I've always got my tissue, and there's a standing joke between me and this person, Catherine, who I've just mentioned twice now, not meaning to embarrass, but where I spread out wherever I go, and there it is again. I'm spreading out. Wherever I go, I tend to spread out. And it's all this male thing of claiming my space. But so I'm here. I'm just saying all of those words has helped me to settle down. Because if I didn't say that, I'd be sweating, nervous, and shaking all over the gap. So it's really good to be here, and it's really good to kind of be connected and share. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. It's just going to come out. So bear with me. I don't like. There's something else I like to share a lot. I don't like doing drug-a-logues, because there is nothing I can tell any single person in this room about taking drugs. I'm pretty sure that most of you guys in this room, like me, consider yourself to be addicts. And if you're addicts, then you know about taking drugs. In fact, some of you could teach me about taking drugs. So yeah, and throughout my story, something may come out about what I took and what I did and this and blah, 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 but that's not what, I'm in recovery. And for any newcomer, this is the place I want to stay. I want to be in recovery. And of course, there's a journey that got me here. I didn't just wake up one day and I was in recovery. I had a journey to get here, and so here I am. What I will say is, if I want to go back to my beginning, whatever that means, I come from supposedly what people call a dysfunctional family, but I've always said this. Show me what a functional family is. I've never, I come from a dysfunctional family. My father was mentally unstable, and it's not for me to say, but I think he was an alcoholic. He left when I was pretty young. There was a lot of violence in my family. My mother did the best she could. She really did. She was a fantastic woman. She brought up 7 of us virtually single-handedly, because my father left when I was 9 or 10. And he left because he couldn't cope. He didn't leave because he was running away to another woman. He didn't leave because he couldn't cope. But when my mother and my father came to this country, my mother's always said, as a woman, she couldn't afford to go and get mentally ill. Do you know what I mean? But my dad could. That's what my mum always says. I was born in England, and I went back to Grenada when I think I was 2, and then we came back when I was approximately 8 or 9, around that age group. Now, talking about Mass, for me, Mass started for me really early, because when I first came back to this country, I didn't fit. You know, I hear this a lot in shares that people say about not fitting in. I never fitted in anywhere. I didn't know where I fitted in. I didn't feel like I always thought I was adopted in my family. I never thought I fitted into my family. I always felt disconnected from my family. Went to Grenada, and I was very young. I didn't but as I was growing up slightly in Grenada, and I'm becoming a bit older, and I kind of loved it there. You know, it seemed like quite a happy experience. Although I used to wet the bed a lot, and I used to get beatings a lot. Because in the Caribbean back in those days, I'm not sure what it's like now, but you suffered some severe beatings, you know what I mean? And I used to get beatings a lot for wetting the bed, and the more I got beatings for wetting the bed, the more I wet the bed, you know, it's a kind of vicious type of circle. I remember that, but I remember having lots of places to play in open spaces, and there was a little river down the bottom which we called River Sally, which is a little town a village that my family are from. There was a boiling spring, which is a sulfur spring. It was really beautiful. I can really see the images in my head of Grenada, do you know? And then my father came, because we went back to Grenada because my mum needed to get away from my dad because my dad was getting into his sickness. And so we ended up there, and we were left there. And then my father came and took me and my brother and left my sisters. And came back here, and we got back here, and the one thing I remember when I came back into England, it was cold. It was grey. We had nowhere to live. I remember my dad tramping around the place, trying to find somewhere in the dead of night for us to stay. You know, I hadn't seen my mum for years at that point, because she'd come back to England to try to set her life to get us back. And we're tramping along. We ended up in this hostel or something. I don't even know where it was, but I do remember the police coming and taking my dad away. And me and my younger brother ending up in a kid's home. And then this woman turned up. I don't know how long we were there for. Some woman turned up, and she had a big fur coat on, and she looked very glamorous. This black woman, she looked very glamorous, lovely hairstyle, red lipstick, and that was my mum. And that was the first time I'd seen my mum in about 5 years, something like that. And my mum took me home. And then I went to school, and I remember being at school and not fitting in. I remember being at school and having a Grenadian accent, and all the other black kids in the school had Jamaican accents or Jafaican accents, or, you know. And that's when I put on my first mask. My first mask was to become a Jafaican, you know. Boom, on it went, because, you know, nobody spoke like a Grenadian. We speak up PSO, right? Everybody spoke, yeah, what happened, brethren? Yeah, all right. So that's how people were speaking, and that's how I kind of went, oh, okay. This is what I'm supposed to be. And all the white kids going, oh, what, mate, how you going? Because I lived in South London. So I've got to put on that mask as well. Do you know what I mean? And so I had to put on that mask. Because for me, the mask was survival. You know, those types of masks were what I did to survive. I had to survive. I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. I didn't know where I belonged. Do you know, I didn't know who I was. And I was desperately trying to fit into something, trying to fit in with you, or you, or you, or you, do you know? And I didn't know how to do that. So what I did was I copied what I saw, do you know? I learned that if I became the chameleon, then I could get through life. So I became the chameleon, do you know? And as time moved on, I kind of, that carried on with me. I didn't know where my place in society was. I didn't know where my place with my friends was. I didn't know who were my friends. You know, I was one of these people, I still am to this day. I'm a loner, basically. Lots of people know me, and lots of people see me as being a very friendly and open guy. And I am. That's part of who I am, you know? But basically, I'm a loner. I don't follow crowds. I don't have a close friend as such. I have friends, but I don't have a close friend, or usually what I used to do when I grew up, I'd have one close friend, and we'd be tied together like this, like really tight bond, and then we'd split up. And then I'd have another close friend, and so on. So basically, I tend to walk by myself, and that doesn't mean I'm a lonely person, but I am a loner, do you know? And because of that, I've had to find ways to connect to people. And trust me, I never knew how to connect. And that's the basic thing. That's why I wore masks. I didn't know how to connect. And just as the last speaker, Paula, said, do you know, a lot of my mask is based around my anger, which stifles everything down. My manipulation, which stifles everything down. Do you know, my greed, do you know, my lack of self. That's what I lack. I lack self. This is what I've learned when I come in here. I lack self. When I first used, the first substance I remember using, and this is interesting for me, it's not a mind-altering substance in the sense that we talk about drugs or alcohol. The first substance I remember using was sugar. You know what I mean? Biscuits, sweets. Those things, I say it's not mine, that's a bullshit. It's completely mind-altering. You know, sugar sent me doolally, made me whiz around the place, boom, 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 boom. I was out of self. The minute I'm out of self, I can cope. When I'm in self, I can't cope. I don't know who I am. So I'm always running from self. And actually, I'm running from self because what I really want to do is connect with self, but I run from self. And so I use anything and any means necessary to get away from self. Because, look, although I'm in Narcotics Anonymous, what I love about this fellowship is that we do not talk about, it's not, I'm a drug addict. Yeah, I use drugs. There's no question. And I use drugs to get away from self. And I use drugs to starve for myself. And I use drugs to survive in certain respects. Again, not to cross-share, but to emulate what Paula said. Yeah, it helped me survive in lots of sense. But the bottom line is, I will use anything. I'm an addict. It says so in our literature. I am an addict. And my addiction takes on any form. Do you know? At this moment, and I don't want to reveal this, but I'm going to reveal it. Do you know what I mean? At this moment, it's taken on the mantle of porn again. Do you know? And it's a big one for me. And I hate revealing that shit, especially when there's women in the room. No, but seriously, because I don't want to reveal that stuff about myself. I want you all to love me. I want you all to like me. I want you all to think Trevor's a really nice guy. But what? Trevor's fucking porn? But you know, the reality is, that's my truth. That's my truth. And at the moment, you know, it's as damaging as if I pick up a crack pipe and stick it in my mouth. It damages my psyche. It takes me away from self. It damages my relationship. It damages my relationship with my partners. It damages all my relationship because it damages me, right? The tentacles, what happens is when I use anything at all, regardless of when I'm ingesting drugs or if I'm using I'm acting out in some other way. What happens is, I talk about tentacles a lot, right? And the tentacles of my using touches everyone that I'm connected to. Every single person. So it touches my missus, it touches my children, it touches my mother, it touches my work colleagues, because I am acting out and I'm trying to keep it secret, so therefore I'm lying. If I'm lying, I am dishonest. If I'm dishonest, I'm touching everyone with that dishonesty. I become aggressive, I close down, I become manipulate, I become lonely, and people sense that stuff. We are not stupid. Even those of us that are not in this room, that are not addicts, people connect to that stuff and they feel, you know, they feel the dishonesty. They feel there's something not quite right with Trevor. And I feel it, more importantly. I know there's something not quite right with my psyche. And so when I do that stuff, when I'm, you know, we are sick as our secrets, as we say in our literature. When I do that stuff, it ties me. It ties me in knots. It binds me up. Equally, when I don't do that stuff, when I'm in the recovery and I'm connected to the recovery and I'm not acting out, it touches everybody as well. My recovery, in the same way as my using of anything touches everyone, my recovery touches everyone. And suddenly, I'm more connected to my missus, I'm more connected to my children, I'm connected to my colleagues, and I'm connected to people. That's why I've got to keep doing this stuff. Do you know, that's why I've got to go to meetings. That's why I've got to share when I'm asked to. That's why I've got to work my steps with my sponsor, not by myself. Do you know, that's why when I say that about the steps, I think it's really important that, and I'm saying this for newcomers because those have been around, well, know all this stuff, but I say this for newcomers, it's really important that we do the steps. It was said again by Paula, you know, it's really important that we work the steps, because I was taught really early on the solution for all of this stuff, the solution of removing the mask and all that stuff lies in the steps. I recovered, or my journey of real recovery began when I started writing those steps down. And when I started sharing those steps with my sponsor and connecting to this stuff, it changed. I share this a hell of a lot. It changed my perception of me. The steps changed my perception of Trevor. And when the perception of Trevor got changed, what happened was my perception of the world got changed. And then suddenly the world wasn't this hostile, terrible, dark, lonely place that I'd been in. It was a beautiful, bright, vibrant place. And that's what I strive to keep. I strive to keep in that mode. And that's not to say that the world doesn't get dark. That's not to say the world doesn't get lonely. That's not to say that I don't get sad. That's not to say that I don't get angry. That's not to say that I don't get into manipulation and cheating and lying and all of that stuff. I can get into all of that stuff. But I know there's a way of arresting that stuff. Just in the same way as arrested my using. Right? When I came in here, my using was arrested. There's a way of arresting the rest of the stuff when I'm jumping, right? But I've heard it said, oh, I'm not going to go out and use on a bit of porn. Right? I'm not going to go out and use on overeating, and I'm not going to go out and blah, blah. Speak for myself, right? I came in, I got 3 years up. I went out. I had a day out. I came back in, I got 6 years up. I went out, I had 8 months up. I'm back in again, I've got 11 and a half years up, right? Now, thank you. I'm sharing... Thank you, yes. I'm sharing this, right? The first time I went out is because of reservations, right? There was a reservation in the back of my mind, and I went out and I came back. The second time I went out is because of porn and obsessing over women, right? I didn't go out, yeah, I wanted to use. This thing is, yes, I wanted to use, right? Because there was a reservation in the back of my head, if I could just have this one use, because my so-called drug of choice is crack cocaine. Crack cocaine for me is connected to sexual deviant behavior. Sexual deviant behavior, for me, I thought that was something that I enjoyed. Actually, I fucking hate it. I really do. I hate it. Excuse my swearing, but I hate it because it makes me feel terrible about myself. It really do. You know, and you know, the thing is, if I'm not vigilant around my behaviors and around the mask that I put on myself, I will go out and use. Right? There's no question about it. If I'm not vigilant, I heard somebody say this once, and I've adopted it. I've taken this because this is my truth. Right? When I put down the drugs, which was relatively easy, once I kind of decided to put down the drugs, all this other stuff kept popping up. Right, and I don't know if some of you might know what a whack-a-mole machine is. Right, I use this a lot. Whack, yeah, there it is. Whack. So you whack one thing down, and bloody another mole comes up. You whack that sucker down, and this one comes up. So you know, like I whacked down the drugs. Yet sex came up. I whacked that down. Food came up. I whacked that down. Crime came up, and so on and so forth. And so I've got to keep doing this all the time. Do you know what I mean? Now, if I'm not in here, I ain't got a chance. If I'm not doing, I cannot come in here and sit down and just keep coming back. But I will say to any newcomer, keep coming back. You know, I'm not telling you not to come back. I'm saying, this is Trevor. Trevor is saying, for me, it wasn't enough. Coming in here and just keeping coming back and sitting on a chair wasn't enough for me. That was fine. That was fine. I did that. But then I had to do something else. I had to. You know, I had to work the steps. I had to open my mouth. I had to share. I had to give something back. I had to do a bit of service. You know, I had to reach out to a newcomer. I have to do this stuff because when I come in here, I was a selfish, self-obsessed, opinionated asshole. It was all about Trevor. Do you know? And it can still be all about Trevor. And I didn't want to connect to anybody, but I desperately wanted to. Because I didn't know how to. I didn't know how to connect to any of you people. Do you know? I didn't know how to connect to you. I just didn't know how to do that. But I desperately wanted to fit in. But I always, like I shared earlier, I always felt that I wasn't part of. I didn't fit into what was going on. So I created, you know, you told me, as I said, you told me to be you spoke in a Jamaican accent, so I spoke in a Jamaican accent. Do you know what I mean? You spoke in a Ghanaian accent, so I spoke in a Ghanaian accent. Do you know what I mean? You spoke in a South London white boy, I was a South London white boy. Anything you wanted me to be, I would be. Do you know what I mean? And God, you know how desperately lonely and dividing that is. How painful that is, because you don't know who you are. You don't know who you are inside. And I desperately wanted to know who I was. I wanted to connect to you. I wanted to walk down the road and connect to people and see people and actually be able to look at people in the eye. I couldn't look at people in the eye. Like I can look at you in the eye right now. I couldn't do that. I saw you coming, I'd have to look on the floor. I'd do everything else. And then I'd mask it with bravado. The bravado mask would go on. Do you know what I mean? Some guy would look at me and my chest would big up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, what? Right? And inside, the little boy inside of me is going, oh shit, I'm scared, this guy's gonna do it. But the mask was boom, I'm out there, yeah, what, and what? Do you know what I mean? And all that bullshit, it was bullshit. Bullshit. My life was bullshit, right? Because my life was completely closed down. And what I learned when I came in here is I don't have to be that way. I can nurture that little boy inside of me, the little boy that exists, the little Trevor who didn't get the messages of love that he craved as a kid, who didn't fit in as a young man, as a young boy. Sorry, not a young man, a young boy, right? I could actually stroke it and love him and let him come to the fore and let him kind of look out and go, I don't know what I'm doing, help. I'm scared, can you help me? I'm vulnerable. Do you know what I mean? I'm in pain. Oh, I'm happy. Oh, this is good. That little boy can do that. And then the rebellious teenager, right? The rebellious teenager's like, yeah, I know, yeah. Do you know what I mean? Every time somebody said anything to me, the first thing I used to say was, I know, right? Which I watch my kids do that to me now, right? And what it means is, shut up. That's what that means. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to hear what you got to say. So, like, I'll say something to my 15-year-old, he goes, yeah, I know. And I look at him and I think, what? And he goes, yeah, I know. And then his little brother goes, yeah, I know. You know, and you kind of, and I kind of go, and I look at that and I think, it brings me back, you know, it reminds me, that's what you were like. You knew because you didn't know. You knew because you desperately wanted to know. So I always knew everything. And basically I was saying to anybody who knew anything more than me, well, I felt threatened by him. You know something more than me, oh God, I feel threatened by it. So I tell you I know. Do you know what I mean? And I desperately wanted to know, really wanted to know. And I wanted to connect, do you know? And again, because I wanted to connect, I put up a mask. And the mask was always bravado, the mask was always violence, the mask was always aggression, you know, lying, manipulation, all of these things are masks, you know? So I put the mask up. And I came in there, what was beautiful about coming in here was, I didn't have to put up masks anymore. I didn't. After a while, when I started doing this stuff, I could actually relax a bit. You know, it's the one place, right? This is the most egalitarian, loving organization, and I've been in a lot of organizations, I tell you, that I've ever been connected to in my life. In this fellowship, I can be Trevor. I'm allowed to be me. I can allow myself to be me. I don't have to try to impress you. I'm not saying I don't do those things. I'm saying I don't have to, right? I know that people talk about we're not judged in NA. Of course we're judged in NA because it's full of people and it's full of bloody addicts. And addicts like to judge. Let's have it right. Do you know what I mean? Let's not kid ourselves here, right? However, I don't feel judged. There's the difference. I'm not saying people don't judge me, but I don't walk into the room thinking everyone's going to judge me. And even if I think that goes away after one person hugs me and I just feel better. I walked in up here today, right? You know, my head's all over the place. Bang, 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 bang. I've got to do this. I've got to do this chair. I've got to be here on time. Bam, 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 bam. And I'm standing on the queue and I'm thinking, will you bloody hurry up? I've got to do a chair. You know, I'm the most important person in the room. I've got to do a chair. Someone gave me a hug and thank you. Do you know what I mean? Somebody gave me a hug and straight away I could calm my ass down. Do you know? I took the hug and it was beautiful and it was loving and it was caring, and somebody else gave me another hug. I went into the toilet and so, you know, I left my bag on the sink, which is an automatic sink, and water fell on my bloody bag and onto one of my 3 phones. Yeah. You get it all in recovery. Anyway, I went on, yeah. You know, water fell into my phone and blah, 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 blah. And someone very kindly, sitting right there, very kindly dried up my phones for me and brought them to me. And I came in, and I saw Terry Ann, and I had a cuddle, and it was lovely. And I gave Paula a cuddle, and it was lovely. And I sat here, and I listened to a wonderful chair. And I'm here, and I'm settled. And I feel okay. I feel okay in my skin. I feel connected. I feel a part of, as opposed to being apart from. I feel a part of. I feel connected to everyone. I don't have to put on a mask. I don't have to speak in a Jamaican accent. I don't have to speak in a white boy accent. I just speak how I speak. And this is how it is. And sometimes different ways of urban or RP or whatever else will come out of my mouth. Who cares? That's how I speak. And it's nice. It's nice just to be Trevor. And it's nice not to try to have to impress you. It's nice just to be here because of the power of what we do. The power of this fellowship. Do you know? I don't know anywhere else where I can get that. You know, the job I do requires me to put on masks all the time. Some people know what I do, and I'm not going to go into that, but it does require me to put on masks all the time. So when I come here, I don't need to do that shit. Oh, isn't that wonderful? Isn't that wonderful that I can sit in a room with what? How many people in here? 80, 90 people, 100 people? I don't know. But I can sit in a room full of people who every single person in this room would admit to using drugs. Right? And none of us are in here right now using. We're all sitting here listening to me pontificating all over the gaff. Nobody's using. Nobody's using. Nobody's sitting in there using. You know, 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes. You know, and for me, that's wonderful. So for me, you know, coming in here gave me freedom to remove this mask. Right? Sitting down, working the steps, connecting with a sponsor. That's another thing. Connecting with that special person, that person. My first sponsor is sitting in the room right now. Right? He's no longer my sponsor. I've got another sponsor. But that person guided me and helped me in ways that they don't even realize. We never worked the steps together, but when I needed someone to talk to and connect to, that person did it for me. And he knows who he is. I don't have to point him out. But, you know, it's just having that connection to another human being, having that connection to what we do is so beautiful. You know, I am blessed to be in this fellowship. You know, I'm blessed. I'm blessed that we have this to come to. I'm blessed that I can connect to another human being. I'm blessed that I can connect to you lot. I'm blessed that we have a 12-step program. I'm blessed that I can reach out to other addicts. I'm blessed that I'm allowed to do service. I'm blessed because when I do this stuff, as I said, the tentacles of what I do here touches every single person in my life and beyond. I ain't got much more to say. Time to remove the mask. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trevor.